The Daily Purge. My memories to Memorial Day. Memorial Day, for those who don't know, it's a day in America where those who gave the ultimate sacrifice in battle are remembered. And as many of you know, I have been to Iraq and I was in a battle, and I did lose friends over there. One specifically, who I lost, who I remember on this day. And I wanted to tell you a little story about that and why it's so important for Americans, and try to understand that for the international community, what it means to Americans. Memorial Day. Hey, hello, Olga. Hello, Daniel. How you doing, brother? Memorial Day is for those soldiers, airmen, Coast Guard, Marines, and Air Force who gave the ultimate sacrifice, meaning they didn't come back. They signed what they called a blank check, right? And they went to foreign land and they battled for freedom. Now, whether or not that was freedom or not is another question, but this is why we do it. So in America, you're raised, or you were raised, to say that one of the ultimate things you can do is fight for your country. In the Bible, they talk about the timeless soldier as well. And it's a high honor. And I remember when I would come home on leave from the military and visit the States, I would always be, offered a drink or a coffee or a free meal or something from others who served as well, and said, thank you for your service. This is different than Veterans Day. Veterans Day is where you remember the veterans. The fallen ones are for Memorial Day. Things like Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, or Arlington Cemetery, and things like that are very big places on days like this. So when I was in Iraq, I went there, and I went there in December 18th, 1990. So I spent Christmas there and New Year's and so on and so forth. And we rolled out into the desert, into our high positions. And then we went from the high positions into the attack positions. Then we went from the attack positions into the attack. And along the way was a guy named Sergeant Young M. Dillon, a Korean American guy. He was with the field artillery. I was with the cavalry. He was our support, and he was with us. And, we ended up hanging out almost every chow. Every time there was chow, we had to stand in the tactical distance. So waiting in line to get food, you would wait, social distancing, right? But it wasn't called social distancing. It was called tactical distance. In case there was an attack, we were far enough apart where we all wouldn't get hit. And we became really good friends. And he was one of those kind of guys we're like talking about when we get back to the States, or when we get back home, or we were stationed in Germany at the time. And just really hit it off, this guy, like had a super connection with him. And when I was in the Hummer with Command Sergeant Major Eckert, who is here on Facebook, and we're still friends, my boss, we ended up hearing on the radio that in the middle of the battle, there was a battle of 73 Easting, largest tank battle since World War II. There was a video game made after it, and various puzzles, books, things all written about this battle. And we heard that the forward observer was hit. So the forward observer is the guy who is up front looking at the enemy and calling artillery fire into this into the enemy. And he got hit with one of the artillery rounds, shrapnel. And we raced over to his track. The medic had him out on the back. I can't remember what it was. It was a truck or a Jeep, or I don't remember what it was, but he was on the back of it, and his helmet was split, and his flak jacket was split, and there was blood. And it was strange because it was at nighttime, so I was looking at it through what they call night vision goggles. So everything was in black and green. So I saw his green body, and I saw the black was the blood. And I watched him as he passed. And when he was looking at me, probably wondering what this thing was with the sticking out of my face or whatever, I'll never forget that look in his eyes. His look in his eyes were like, don't F this up. Like, don't mess up your life. Like, it's all yours now, sort of kind of thing. It felt like he was telling me, I'm leaving now, and it's your chance, kind of thing. And that stuck with me for a long time. And still to this day, sometimes I feel guilty because, I made it and he didn't. And it's called survivor guilt. And a lot of veterans will tell you about that. A lot of veterans will tell you about why me? Why did I get to survive and not the others? And I did that for years and years and years. My suicide attempt, back in 2007, was testimony to that as well. And it ends up that, I took that, what was in his eyes. It took me 20 years to figure out what he was trying to say, or maybe I didn't want to know it because I wanted the guilt. The guilt, I guess, makes you feel alive or something. And I decided to make a difference, and that's one of the driving factors why I do what I do. It's like I want to make a difference, and that's specifically why I'm very active in the veteran space. And I know there's a lot of people out there that want to make a difference, and that's because when you're in the military, believe it or not, if you've never been, it's a purpose larger than yourself, so much bigger than yourself that you probably never have anything like it after, which is another reason why a lot of veterans have issues when they get out of the military, is because they don't have that larger vision, that larger mission. That's something that's larger and bigger and more meaningful than themselves. So there's a lot of veterans out there suffering because they feel their survivor guilt. They feel like, what's my life worth now? I'm working at the post office and I make money to pay my bills. What's the meaning of that, right? It's weird, it's strange, because you have people that trained in the military and then never went to war. They feel guilty. And you have those who trained, went to war, and came back and weren't wounded. They feel guilty. And you have those who went to war, got wounded, but didn't get killed, and they feel guilty. It just goes on. It never ends, right? And everyone in the military who didn't have that, let's say, the ultimate, they sort of feel guilty. At least the ones that I've talked to. And it's a strange thing, it's a strange thing looking back now. I was a young guy. I was 23. I was in Iraq. I was ready to go. I was ready to drop off. I was ready to die. I was ready to give my life. I was literally ready. We wrote our wills before we left, and we put them in boxes with our personal items and addressed it to each person we wanted that box to go to. So you got to realize we had to write a letter to the person we were sending the box to as if we were gone. So it was like, if you're reading this, I fell in Iraq, and then you just poured your soul, Hey, Brian. Hey, Jared. And I remember when I did that, it was like something clicked in me, and I said, okay, I'm done. It's over. And because I was with the 8th Cav and we were in the very front, yeah, exactly, Jared. Exactly. So we were on the very front, and I knew we weren't coming back. They told us we weren't coming back. And a lot of people forget in the first Gulf War, they were expecting 100,000 casualties on our side, because Iraq had 5 tanks for every 1 tank that we had, for instance. And I ended up coming back, which was a shock, actually. When it was over, it was like, what? I'm coming back? Then you had to readjust your whole mindset to actually coming back, which was probably harder than going, because going was a mission. Now you're going back and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? And I remember getting back, and I got transferred to Berlin Brigade after the war. So I was in Berlin, and it was like, what's the point, of doing what I'm doing now? I've been to war. I've been there and done that. And now what am I doing? I'm training to train, and it got really sort of boring and mundane. Then I got transferred to Schweinfurt, Germany. I was fortunate to be able to stay in Germany because I kept extending myself in Germany as an overseas tour. I spent 7 years and went to Schweinfurt, and it was really bad. It was really, really bad. I was like, I do not want to be here anymore. And I remember they said, well, hey, our unit's going to Kuwait to support. And I was like, the hell I am. I'm not going to Kuwait. And I remember we went in for the vaccines, which is a theme right now. But back in Iraq, we got what they call the hemoglobin. And the hemoglobin, I swear, it was like cold toothpaste going into your ass, and it was like an egg-sized bump on your butt, and it hurt like a mother. And they said everyone goes into the theater, and we had to get the vaccine. I just said I'm getting out, so I don't need to. I'm not going. And at the time, I wasn't getting out, but I just said I was, because I wasn't getting that vaccine. I remember how sick I got before from it. So when we were in Iraq, after the ceasefire, or after the battle, before the ceasefire, we had our alarms going off for nerve gas, and they're like, oh, they're faulty. Oh, they're reacting to nothing. There's nothing going on. And funny enough, we were all sick, like very sick, and we were literally walking around with no pants on or underwear, because we had no control over our bowels. some of us were crawling on our hands and knees because we couldn't stand up. We were so, equilibrium was messed up. And that lasted for about 3 or 4 days. They told us it was dysentery from the chicken we ate or food or whatever it was we ate. So we believed it and drove on. And turns out that was nerve gas. That was sarin and cyclosarin nerve gas that we were hit with. And we were taking bromide tablets. Bromide tablets are tablets that are against another kind of nerve gas. So this didn't help at all. Anyway, so I went home or went back to Germany, got out of the military then, went back to Berlin, lived in Berlin for a long time. And then moved to Budapest 2012. 20 years later, I got a letter from the VA, from Veterans Administration, that said, hey, you have a presumptive 60% disability. And I was like, what? For what? And they said, well, your unit, your specific unit, not the battalion, but your unit, 8th Cavalry, the regiment, was in near Kawashmaya, I don't know how you say it, which was the ammo dump where the sarin and cyclosarin nerve gas was set up, so to say, went up in the air. And so I went to get my physical and they said, yep, you're screwed. And then they gave me a disability, which they awarded me, or whatever you want to call it, a disability because of that. And then they did some more tests and found more stuff. And so, yeah, that's what happens. And, people say, well, aren't you bitter and aren't you mad? No, because I look at my mindset at that. Hindsight's 2020. I sure as hell wouldn't do it today, and I wouldn't ask my kids to do it today. I don't care what anybody thinks of that, because that's my own. I don't want my kid to go through that what I went through. I definitely don't want that. Because it's affected me my whole life, but it's also made me who I am. It's also, some people say you're a hard charger and you're always successful, and that's why, because of that. And I said, well, that's probably true, but I look at my twin brother. He didn't go, but he's just like I am. He's a hard charger, and so. Did it, didn't it? I am much softer than my brother, believe it or not. More retrospective and more sort of spiritual, I guess you will, if you will. Maybe that's why, because I've experienced death so many times. But I got to tell you, the one thing on this day that I remember the most is those who came back, but left a part of them there, and then they committed suicide. So they survived the war, and they come back, and they can't deal with it anymore. And so they commit suicide. For me, they're the ones, they're just as heroic, they're just as important as the ones who fell in battle. Some people may say it's weak. Some people may say it's selfish. But believe me when I tell you, I know the feeling. And I know that feeling of helplessness, and I know the feeling of meaninglessness in life, and I know the feeling of worthlessness, and what it does to one, and what it does to the relationships around you, and what it does to everyone around you and everything around you. You push everything away, and you do it in order to confirm that you're worthless. And because you're confirming that you're worthless by making other people upset about you, it makes it worse. And then you drive yourself to the edge, I guess you could say. It's a fight every day. It's my mission to help brothers. Amen. May the light that you exude shine on you as it does on us. Thank you. Thank you very much. And so it's a battle. It's a battle, and it's every day. And, I've been out since 2003 to almost 30 years. I've been out, and I still think about it every day. I still think about it every single day. I take solace in the fact that it is a way for me to stay positive, because I know I'm doing the duty of those who couldn't be here to do the duty. And I know I'm doing it in their name, especially Sergeant Dillon. And I know that I'm doing him proud. And that's what's important for me. I know he's up there with the other guys playing spades or dominoes, right? Looking down, going, look at Kuhn. He better not screw this up. That's what I like to think. So I wanted to share that. Thank you. I wanted to share that today. It just felt like it was important to me. I don't really get into all the, the political stuff or none of that stuff. You don't hear me talk about that very often, or if at all. It's just something that I thought was important to say today. So I hope you enjoyed it, or at least got value out of it, put it that way. Believe it or not, Big Mo, there you go, Eric. Thank you, Olga. Thank you very much. I love that. They're betting on you. But these thoughts, the attitude towards these thoughts, trying to be the best version of myself every single day because of them, that adds to that what we always seek, and that's quality of life, right? It does. It forces me to be better. It really does. So remember, no matter what, it always really is all about quality of life. We'll see you tomorrow.